Simon Jacobson here, another episode of Meaningful Live. This program is dedicated to the tragic deaths and souls that were taken from us in Sydney, Australia. It was the first night of Hanukkah. It's with a broken heart and a shattered soul that I speak to you, though it's hard to speak, but it's harder to remain silent. So we'll talk about Hanukkah's message to the world. Tragedy in Sydney. 16 people to date were murdered by terrorists just hours ago as they were celebrating a holiday of freedom, of light over darkness. It's still hard to fathom. Lives have been forever changed. The death of a Rabbi Schlanger, and again, all during a holiday that's meant to teach us all the power of light over darkness. I don't really have any explanation, nor words of consolation, to be honest. When things like this happen, I think the honest and most direct approach is to recognize that we don't have answers. That silence is ultimately the only way to even begin to address the shock. But as I said, we can't remain completely silent because we need to strengthen each other. Strengthen each other all over the world, and especially the families, both in Sydney. And we're all one extended family. They were targeted only because they were Jews. I don't even want to say the words. I hope this serves as a wake-up call, because we've had enough wake-up calls. October 7th was one big one. And what has happened since is just beyond horrific. It's one thing, you had the Nazis did what they did, and yes, the silent complicity of the world, but at some point you learn. And here it seems like Jews can be massacred and then they're blamed for it. So the outrage, the anger, frustration is very deep. But we turn back to Hanukkah yet again. As much as we are shocked by the fact that on a day like Hanukkah, which was all meant to be a holiday that celebrates the victory over enemies, the victory of quality over quantity, the victory over light over darkness, that this should happen on that very day. But the same question also provides the answer, that that's exactly what Hanukkah teaches us. The darkness is not over yet. That's why we're still celebrating. The darkness is not over. And now we have a harsh reality that's reared its ugly head to demonstrate and show us exactly that. So when we see that happen, what we do is we rise even greater. We rise even higher. We look for even deeper light. Remember the story of Hanukkah, which we're about to begin here, where I am right now, on the east coast of the United States. In Australia, it's already the next day. So we're about to enter Hanukkah. What happened on Hanukkah? The Greeks had desecrated and defiled the holy temple, as well as the holy sacred oil that was used to light the menorah. Pure olive oil, which represented purity, innocence, the innocence within our souls, the innocence within existence, the innocence of the divine. It was all defiled. And here's the miracle. Miracle number one, that the few conquered the many. The Maccabees, who are much less in number and much weaker, they prevailed over the Greeks. Two, it was not just a war, a battle in the battlefield. It was a spiritual war. It was an ideological war. A war whether spirit, godliness, sanctity had value. The Greeks had no problem with the Jewish people's morality, with their wisdom. Haman during Purim wanted to destroy and annihilate the Jews, period. Kill them, exactly like the Nazis. The Greeks didn't have that objective. They wanted us, they said, as we say in one of the prayers on Hanukkah, we have no problem with your Torah as a book of wisdom, of philosophy. But why are you calling it God's Torah? Why are you calling it a sacred Torah? Why do you kiss it? Why do you dance with it? Why do you attribute to it transcendent strength? Mitzvahs, no problem with morality, with ethics. But why are you calling mitzvah secha? Why are you calling God's mitzvahs? Why do you have to begin the Ten Commandments by saying, I am your God? And then we all accept the idea of do not murder, do not steal, and so on. But why are you attributing it to divine strength? That was the war. It was a war of light over darkness, or darkness over light. That's why we honor it by celebrating lighting light, because light represents spirit. The flame of God, the candle of God, is the soul of man. It represents a transcendent element, not just a logical, human logical philosophy or rational moral and ethical laws. That if you don't have accountability to a force that's greater than you, then all the ethics and morality will be arbitrary, will be relative. As we've seen, talk about the Nazis. They had great doctors, they had great lawyers, they had great philosophers, musicians, composers. They were known for their science. And look what happened. They were able to use the science to figure out the science, the fastest way to kill innocent men, women, and children. Why? Because if you don't have accountability to a higher force, your morality loses its compass, loses its direction. So it's not enough just rational morality or rational philosophy. You need a bedrock, as the founding fathers of this country 250 years ago recognized, that all men are created equal and endowed by the Creator with inalienable rights. Why do they have to emphasize the word creator? We know there's a separation of church and state, because they realize that if you don't attribute it to a creator and we give it to each other, humans, we could also take it from each other. It has to be something that is inalienable, something that is unwavering. And the only foundation of morality that is absolutely unwavering and not arbitrary, not dependent on people's opinion or on the majority, is when it's based on a divine power. And that's what the Greeks opposed. Just as an example, in those days, the Greeks considered the Jews as barbaric. Why? Because the Jewish people, when they had children that were born unfortunately handicapped or mentally compromised, the Greeks felt it was benevolent to kill those children, both for the children, to get them out of their misery, and also of the families that would be such a burden. The Jews refused, because they knew the soul is never handicapped, and God had given a soul to that child. Yes, special children have special challenges and special strengths. Today, no one would say that. Because rational mind, you could say, you know what, it is a burden on society. It costs a lot of money, it's going to be aggravating emotionally, psychologically. But when you answer to a higher authority, then it's not up to your rationale to decide life and death and decide who is more deserving than that, because once you start playing with that, you get to the Aryan superior race. And this brings us back to the tragedy in Sydney. The fact that people can lift a firearm and kill men, women, and children innocent tells you they're lacking that higher authority. Yes, they'll justify in the name of Allah and Allah Akbar and all that. But it's a major distortion, because the first rule is God says, do not hurt my children. If you love me, you're going to love my creatures. You love what I love. I love my human beings, all human beings on this earth. So that's a corruption, fundamental corruption that needs to be corrected on every possible level. And that's the message, my friends, of Hanukkah. So when we see such tragedy, yes, we're shocked, we're overwhelmed, we're disoriented, we don't know what to say, but we also hold on strong stronger than ever, that we need even more light. That's how we respond. That shows there's still darkness in the world, unfortunately. We need even more light. We will not retreat. We'll become stronger than ever and demonstrate that Hanukkah will prevail, even over this darkness, even a darkness that happened on Hanukkah, on the first night of Hanukkah, in the first time zone where Hanukkah begins, essentially down under. And that's how we enter into this holiday. So yes, it's with a broken heart and grieving, mourning for those that were lost, still warm bodies. We hope that the count will not go up. We hope the wounded and the injured will be healed completely. We've seen some of the heroic acts. But if this does not wake us up, what does? So this is exactly why we need Hanukkah, when you see events like this. Again, it's not an answer. It's not a justification. I cannot explain it. It disturbs me as it disturbs every one of us. But that's our Hanukkah's message to the world. That's Hanukkah's message. That we will be stronger than ever before. And the Hanukkah candles, as Nachmanides writes, will burn on forever and ever. Because that can never be extinguished. Yes, there can be setbacks. There can be moments where the light may be dimmed. But there is no way that will be extinguished. The light will continue to burn stronger than ever. And that's our commitment. That's my commitment. That should be your commitment. And no longer be passive or reactive. We have to be proactive. Like we've seen the heroes in this situation. And that doesn't just mean physically. Physically, of course. But it also means spiritually. And it means also with a moral vision that is strong, fortitude, vigilant, that we stand for something. Excuse me. A light that nobody can ever put out. So you and I are either part of the problem or part of the solution. Part of the problem is standing on the sidelines. Let others deal with it. We have to come out with a clarion call, declaring no more tolerance, zero tolerance for such behavior. You have grievances, there's ways to deal with your grievances. And that light will always be stronger than darkness. May we celebrate Hanukkah stronger than ever, precisely because it's gotten darker than ever. More light to counter this darkness. Again, may the families be consoled and comforted. May they find deeper strength. May those that are injured be healed completely. And may the souls of those that were taken from us rest in peace and give us strength as well as they pray for us. May this be the last time we have to speak about such matters. And from here on, only light, only love, only kindness and compassion. Happy Hanukkah.